We see this problem again in the following hadith. Bukhari 6.527, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Umar said, Ubay was the best of us in the recitation of the Quran. Yet we leave some of what he recites. Ubay says, I have taken it from the mouth of Allah's apostle and will not leave for anything whatsoever. This hadith clearly shows that the companions of Muhammad disagreed over which verses were abrogated or removed. Here we see that Ubay continued to recite the Quran with verses that the other companions considered to have now been abrogated or removed. It is clear that Ubay refused to accept that the verses had been abrogated, for he says, I have taken it from the mouth of Allah's apostle and will not leave for anything whatsoever. The hadith then quotes a surah to explain that this was an example of abrogation. The result, however, was that the companions recited the Quran differently, for Ubay continued to recite the abrogated verses. The previous two hadiths record how Mas'ud and Ubay recited the Quran differently to other Muslims. We have already seen that these two men were recommended by Muhammad as men worthy to learn the Quran from. However, since their collections of the Quran were not the same, this caused problems for the Muslims who learned the Quran from them. The Muslim scholar Labib al-Sa'id records that the Syrians, we are told, contended with the Iraqis, the former following the reading of Ubay ibn Ka'b and the latter of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, each accusing the other of unbelief. When Muhammad died, there existed no singular codex of the Quranic text. That is, there was not in existence any collections of revelations in a final review form. Also, there was not a single memorizer who knew all the verses of the Quran. All these verses were scattered in the memories of hundreds of huffaz, memorizers. Without a doubt, Muhammad failed utterly in his primary mission of giving his followers a single authorized scripture, because in reality he died without authenticating a unified codex of the Quran. The fact that he left his followers with 7 modes or versions of the Quran speaks volumes about his failure. The consequences of this failure became paramount when his followers were reciting different versions of the alleged words of Allah. This failure has endured and continues for the last 1400 years. All attempts by his present followers to gloss over these facts are doomed to fail, since the records of the Muhammadan scholars in the centuries after his death attest to otherwise. After his demise, and as the memorizers, Huffaz, were becoming extinct through slaughter in battle or otherwise, Umar ibn al-Khattab recommended that he should be committed to writing. Abu Bakr entrusted the task to Zayd bin Thabit of Al-Madinah, who used to be Muhammad's secretary. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 6.509, narrated by Zayd bin Thabit. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq sent for me when the people of Yamama had been killed, i.e. a large number of the Prophet's companions who fought against Musaylima. I went to him and found Umar ibn al-Khattab sitting with him. Abu Bakr then said to me, Umar has come to me and said, casualties were heavy among the Qurra of the Quran, i.e. those who knew the Quran by heart, on the day of the Battle of Yamama. And I'm afraid that more heavy casualties may take place among the Qurra on other battlefields, whereby a large part of the Quran may be lost. Therefore I suggest that you, Abu Bakr, order that the Quran be collected. I said to Umar, how can you do something Allah's apostle did not do? Umar said, by Allah, that is a good project. Umar kept on urging me to accept this proposal till Allah opened my chest, persuaded me for it, and I began to realize the good idea which Umar had realized. So, I started looking for the Quran and collecting it from what was written on palm stalks, thin white stones, and also from the men who knew it by heart, till I found the last verse of Surah At-Tawbah, repentance, with Abi Khuzaymah al-Ansari, and I did not find it with anybody other than him. All were brought together, and the text was constructed. So-called believers and unbelievers From the above quotes, 4 extremely relevant items can be concluded. That hundreds of memorizers of the Quran died in battles and with them died forever. What different verses they had memorized that only they had knowledge of. That some verses were only in the memory of one single reciter and no other, thus explaining so many hadiths that speak of certain verses that were heard but were not included in the final compilation of the Quran. They also show that the pagan Arabs had not yet mastered the art of writing or the use of writing materials such as clay, papyrus, metal sheets, or even skins of animals. The Arabs of the Hijaz, contrary to all the mendacities of Muhammadan propaganda, were mostly illiterate and unlearned people. This hadith clearly shows that Muhammad never made a final collection of the Quran before his death. For when Abu Bakr was asked to collect the Quran into one volume, he said, "How can you do something Allah's apostle did not do?" Muhammad did not make a final collection of the Quran because there were many of his companions whom he trusted to teach the Quran, and they made their own collections. Moreover, all the above prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the utter falsity of the Muhammadan claims that there were many memorizers of the complete Quran. If there were such memorizers of the complete Quran, why then did they need to collect the Quranic verses from diverse and unrelated documents such as leaf stalk, bones, parchments, as well as from the memories of so many different men? Thus, the first completed collection of the manuscript of the Quran remained with Abu Bakr till he died, then with Umar till the end of his life, and then with Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, until 651 AD, when Uthman bin Affan canonized the second compilation of the Quran called the Medina Codex, and ordered all others, 6 other versions of the Quran, destroyed. What is also blatantly problematic for the Muhammadan scholars are the serious variations in the several extant Qur'ans of the time, making it impossible to tell which version is the alleged word of Allah, since His word should have been only one and not several. In fact, there were several metropolitan codices in Arabia, Syria, and Iraq, with many divergent readings blamed on the defective nature of Kufic script, which contained no vowels. Thus the consonants of the verbs could be read as active or passive, and worse still, many of the consonants themselves could not be distinguished without diacritical marks that were added much later. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 6.510, narrated by Anas. Bin Hudayfa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudayfa was afraid of their, that is the people of Sham and Iraq, differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, "O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book, as Jews and the Christians did before." So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, "Send us the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you." Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd bin Thabit, Abdullah bin Az-Zubair, Sa'id ibn al-As, and Abdul Rahman bin Harith bin Hisham to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to the 3 Qurayshi men, "In case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of the Quraysh." The Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so, and when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscript to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province 1 copy of what they had copied, and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. Zayd bin Thabit added, "A verse from Surah Al-Ahzab was missed by me when we copied the Quran, and I used to hear Allah's Apostle reciting it. So we searched for it and found it with Khuzaymah bin Thabit al-Ansari. That verse was, Among the believers are men who have been true in their covenant with Allah. 33.23. Believers and unbelievers, please be aware that Zayd bin Thabit collected the first Quran under Abu Bakr and told us then, till I found the last verse of Surah At-Tawbah, repentance, with Abi Khuzayma al-Ansari, and I did not find it with anybody other than him. Yet once more, with unimaginable coincidence, at least 17 years later, while compiling the second version of the Quran, he again tells us that a verse from Surah Ahzab was missed, so we searched for it and found it yet again with Khuzayma bin Thabit al-Ansari.